now on Islam Channel, Living the Life.
Living the life.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Living the Life. Now let's go on to our next video story of today.
Relevant to the First World War from the Treaty of London of 1839, described by the German Chancellor as a scrap of paper, and over which tried to normalise relations with Germany and tried to make sure that war could never happen again. It meant at the time the end of a conflict which had killed millions of people, which had been absolutely devastating for the whole world, and not only Europe but also in the Middle East or Africa as we know them today. Because it cost so many lives, I think the peace treaties are really a sort of punishment. Maybe they made a mistake. We need to learn from the peacemaking process after. And I think having all the treaties together is also a very powerful symbol.
Subhanallah, mashallah, what a beautiful video. Lady Sidra Naeem, Deputy Lord Lieutenant, Queen's Representative for Essex. She, Europe. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us today.
That's okay, thank you for having me.
Lady Sidra, as always, that poppies.
It is, and that's the one that I wore on Sunday because I represented the Queen in Chelmsford in Essex. And I did a big speech.
Lady Sidra, I come from a generation that over the years, many people, as soon as they see a poppy, they make it synonymous that, no, it was not Muslims. Please explain to our viewers and go in a bit of detail of what Remembrance Sunday is all about for the forgotten heroes of Muslims that fought.
War as against the Ottoman Empire. To eradicate Muslims and the Turks and that kind of stuff. But what people don't know, and modern look at Britain, with Britain was France, and within France, France actually ruled Algeria, Libya, Tunisia. All of those Muslims, they all fought with Britain, and Russian Muslims as well, and Egyptians as well. So all of that side people don't look at.
And Indian Muslims as well.
Yeah, Indian Muslims, Europe. And there are wonderful stories on how they, through Islam, through the Quran, they gave food to the prisoners. Halal food was brought in and shared with everybody. They had huge knowledge of medicine, again through the sea wounds and all the all the ailments and things that
were involved in the war, and obviously when we had prisoners of war from the other side as well, the way that they used to follow in the teachings of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
They fed the captives and they clothed them really well. They actually taught all the other non-Muslims how to tells you in chapter 3 of the Quran that look after the captives and be good to them. They also fought soldier to soldier. The hadiths of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ tell us not to harm any civilians, crops, the elderly are vulnerable, and they fought in such a beautiful way.
In the schools, when they talk about or haven't told the children about the contribution of Muslims.
Definitely, but that is actually an upcoming subject now, I would think. And then suddenly now it is in the schools. So I think in the future, definitely, I think that that is definitely a growing subject. But interfaith going on. Did you know that the burial system for Islam was then taught to the rabbis? It was also learnt from the Jewish and the Christian communities on how to bury the dead.
I was going to come to this. I was reading the history about them. When the nurses, they were helping the wounded soldiers as well, and they used to tell the people not to torture any enemy.
Yes, that's right. And there was so much interfaith going on. There was actually a French lady called Charlotte Beatrice, and she had a hospital just for Christian soldiers, but for Muslim soldiers and Jewish soldiers as well. So it was for everybody. So there was so much unity going on. Did everybody else?
During the World War, some Muslim people actually taught them how to use the herbs and natural remedies for
what he taught us. And that's exactly what the Muslim soldiers did. They showed the rest of Europe how to use all the difference in wounds and things. So
I mean, this is really important. Listen, I'm a great admirer of interfaith work as well, and I think it's great that you organisation that we were alongside the Christians, we were alongside the Jews, we were alongside the Sikhs, we were alongside the Hindus. I think it's Britain, but it wasn't. It was the British Empire. That we all come together to fight against injustice as well.
Yes.
And it's really before discussions, doesn't it?
That's right.
Yes, it's very important. I mean, we live in Britain at the end of the day, and we are British. So it's important that we look into the history to Britain. And this role which I got was exactly for that, to be honest with you. When I got my final letter within the British society.
I mean, one of the things that I was with the beautiful Mrs. into Trafalgar Square, there's many memorials that you can see, obviously Nelson's Common as well, but there was one particular memorial that actually states the Muslim soul over in Egham as well, that has a list of all the people that died, as well as the Sikh pilots, as well as the Muslim pilots, as well as the Hindu pilots. Our nations can come together and live in peace and harmony, how it should be, really.
Yes, and all of this information would also eliminate Islamophobia.
Well,
yes, definitely. And it's definitely needed at the moment because of all the political things that are happening out there.
That's right. And I think knowledge, I think they should be aware of the contribution of the Muslim people in the world.
Definitely, this would boost up some of the children's confidence, phobia, and all of this information is very, very good for youngsters to know because it would boost up their confidence.
You are so right, and you know they can talk about racism, and they're talking about different religions as well, which is not very good for the children anyway.
Yes, definitely. I think it's very, very good at the time where it makes a big impact.
Lady Sidra, it's really important, obviously, when you make dialogue as well, it's really important that we know our history. For people watching as well, how can they embark on getting the correct knowledge so they can empower themselves that when they do start...
I think the first thing really is to research yourself. With people who don't have time, they can go to talk lectures on, you know, British history and things. So I think that people need to go to talks and learn themselves. And then if they've...
Ask you, would you go to, like, different schools to talk about all the contribution and the World War I? And
Yes.
Was there a big exhibition recently regarding unsung heroes?
There was in Walthamstow, actually, yes, in East London. There was a big history of Islam in Britain. And because I work in a university, and a lot of the international students did not know that Muslims have been here. How much contribution did Muslims make then? The very first restaurant, the very first bath in Brighton, you know, for cleanliness.
It's so good, so I can now go and tell all the kids as well that this is the history of the Muslims as well. This is knowledge that I've gained today.
Yes, and the Queen Victoria
to ask
was
you,
a Muslim.
have you seen the film? It was an amazing film. I think
Lady
you have to
Sidra,
watch
thank you so much again once again. I mean, look, I could sit here all night and talk as well. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you very much.